I, and many farmers I know were right there with me, was worried about things for a long time this spring when the rain would stop and the temperature wouldn't climb. But it's turned out to be a nearly perfect growing season. With the temperature finally coming up to normal and staying high consistently, even through the nights, everything's going great. Not only is this perfectly timed periodic rain a good thing for the garden, it's also good for the list of things that need to be done outside the garden. Today's tasks include something I should have done this winter: repairing and sharpening the blade of my European Scythe. This is one of my favorite tools. The European Scythe, unlike its mass-produced US cousin, is custom-fitted to the user, meaning my scythe was made specifically for me. Several years ago, I attended a scythe workshop at the Common Ground Country Fair in Unity, Maine, at MOFCA. The man there took measurements when I decided to finally invest in a scythe. He measured my arms, including shoulder to fingertips, elbow to wrist, hip to ground, and more. He scribbled things on a piece of paper, and several weeks later, I had a scythe. My scythe was made in Surrey, Maine, by a European Scythe supply company. I have since purchased a sharpening jig kit and instructions to make the homemade sharpening station I'll use today. This is an excellent, small, family company. The only problem is, they sell tools that last for generations, so it's hard to patronize them again. I don't really need another scythe. I absolutely love mine, and, if I take care of it, it will be years before I need another blade. It's not hard to see the divots, tears, and imperfections that rocks and thick saplings and other things put into a scythe blade. The hard part is removing them and getting the blade back to uniform thickness and bevel along the entire length so it slices through plant cellulose efficiently and effectively. Everywhere the blade deviates from a consistent bevel is a place where you reduce the efficiency of the slice and thus the tool itself substantially. Although it's fairly easy to see most of the problem areas, one thing I like to do is close my eyes and run the blade along the jig, slowly. Many times, I can feel a problem, even if I don't notice it with the eye. The metal at the slicing edge of a scythe blade is incredibly thin and malleable. That's what makes it such an effective tool. That's also one of the reasons it's so annoying to hit anything that isn't grass with the blade. Rocks, thicker saplings, fence posts, the foundation board of a hoop house, you name it, and if it isn't grass, it will likely bend the blade, changing the bevel angle anywhere the blade contacts the object in question. This blade isn't actually very bad. There are no tears in it, for instance, which are fixable, but require much more time. However, that's not for lack of trying. During my last few mowings late last summer and early fall, I knew I was pushing the envelope and should have stopped and sharpened the blade, but I kept pushing. Luckily, I didn't do any serious damage, but it's definitely past time to be taking care of these many situations along the blade's length. The sharpening jig sold by Scythe Supply comes with 3 key parts: the anvil and the 2 pieces of shaping steel. The first is designed to draw the metal back into a uniform thickness along the entire blade edge. The second repairs the bevel angle. The rings atop each piece indicate the order in which they're to be used. 1 ring first, 2 rings second. In their instructional video explaining how to sharpen a blade using the sharpening jigs, Scythe Supply advises you to use a towel or piece of burlap to protect your legs. The sharpening station, made out of a cedar log into which the jigs are mounted, is designed so the blade rests atop your thighs for support. You move the blade along the jig from left to right, meaning it slides along the tops of your legs. This is exactly the motion the scythe makes when it's cutting grass and brush, so it makes sense to put something on your legs to keep them from getting sliced. Originally, I was using a towel, as Scythe Supply suggests, but since I almost never throw anything away if I think there might be some future use for it, I had these old Carhartt pants in a rag pile. Rather than cut them into strips, I decided to make them my sharpening chaps. The shaping steel cylinders are supposed to rotate around the post on the anvil as you move the blade along. Since I don't use this very often, certainly not as often as I should, the cylinders aren't rotating very smoothly. So I decided to try lubricating them using some cast iron oiling compound. It worked, and the jig began working the way it's designed to work, which was great. The final step, after reattaching the blade to the snath, is to hone. Honing is not sharpening, despite what the dictionary tells you about synonyms. Honing is actually the process of ensuring the finest part of the blade, meaning the very edge of the cutting portion, is all at the same angle, and that there are no burrs, which are the tiny pieces of metal removed during sharpening. Honing, unlike sharpening, is done frequently for the scythe. The honing stone is kept with you in the field, and you should stop mowing and hone every 5 minutes, or when you notice the blade is dulling, whichever comes first. And certainly, just after sharpening, you should hone, to make sure you always start out with a honed blade.